is Asad Hussein, and I'm 20 years old, and I've come from a majority Sunni background. My whole family is Sunni. I've got about 1% Shia from Pakistan, and yeah, that's about it. And I'm studying criminology, criminal justice and law, and in the future I plan to take my career down the path of law and to be a lawyer, hopefully. Yeah, I've got 2 older brothers. Now, when it comes to religion, there wasn't any, like, we wouldn't really go into the Sunni Shia stuff. We'd always just be like, there'd be propaganda that we'd all believe, and we'd never talk to Shias because of it. And that's why we're distant from our Shia family down in Pakistan. You know, we'd get told things like, you know, they're not real Muslims, and that they, things like they're killing our brothers and sisters in different countries and things like this. So then it'd keep us away from our Shia family. And yeah, there wasn't too much of the sectarian stuff anyway, but we just have these things in the back of our head. I used to go mosque, madrasa after school, primary school, every day, but they'd never talk about Shia stuff or Sunni stuff. It'd just be basic, you know. We'd get taught things like basically what the Sunni beliefs are, we'd just be taught them, but they wouldn't say this is just Sunni belief. They'd make it out as the only belief. We'd get told from people around us and online that Shias would beat themselves because they're cursed. That was one thing. Another thing was they believe Imam Ali alayhi salam is Allah. And there would be another one which would say Imam Ali alayhi salam is our last prophet. And then they'd say things like we curse and we do this and we do that. Now what they do is they add truth with falsehood. So then, you know, it keeps us away. Like, we might think that it's the truth, but really it's actually the falsehood that they add to it makes it completely false. And there's no truth to it at all. I started watching videos on YouTube in a place called Hyde Park, Speaker's Corner. And there'd be loads of Shia propaganda there, coming from Salafis particularly. Okay, they would promote their belief and say that, you know, where people of a Jew came up with Shiism. So I started believing these things. I didn't really question it. And when I finally saw that there was Shias that were actually at the park debating, because I'd become so extreme in hating Shias, I wouldn't listen to what they were saying. So anything they brought, I would reject it and say that, you know, they're liars, they're not Muslim, because we'd get put into our head that Shias are just like, they're not Muslim and they're trying to destroy us.
I take you case, you're kafir. I take it, you're mushrik kafir. Yes. Thank you. You're mushrik kafir. I take you face.
What, do you curse him behind closed doors then?
No.
I tried to contact the Shias that were at the park, and at first when I contacted them, it was just on a hate type of thing. You know, I would just mock them and insult them. And then when I actually did start speaking to them, you know, things started opening up, and I started questioning more and more. I started researching. I started looking at PDFs of like Sunni hadith that were compiled and not actually shown to the Sunni community, you know. So there was actually loads of Shia belief that you can prove from their books that doesn't get shown to everyone. So so a specific hadith would be Hadith Thaqalain. Okay, now everyone would always say in that park and online everywhere, you know, we follow Quran and Sunnah. Obviously we follow that in principle, but that's not what the Prophet actually said, you know. So that hadith, I'm sure it goes something like, you know, I leave for you the Quran and my family, and if you hold on to these two, you will not go astray. After reading this, I would still make excuses and say things like, you know, oh, this is probably a Shia writing this and things like that, when I didn't really know about how hadith worked. When I found out it was in Sunni books everywhere, and the Quran and Sunnah thing wasn't really able to be authenticated, I started opening more and more, like I started having more and more questions. Then I started looking into the proper status of Imam Ali alayhi salam and the rest of the Ahlul Bayt. My overall reading and watching videos, and altogether it was about maybe 10 to 11 months. It could be 9 months, 9 to 11 months basically. Now I would get, there's someone, I should mention his name. His name's Sayyid Raza Rizvi. And he would send me books, but it wasn't Shia books, it was Sunni books. And there were like fringe opinions from Sunnis that would believe what we believe. You know, because there's people that say, you know, that's not from Sunnis at all. You know, for example, some people could believe that Imam Ali was greater than the other 3. Now, not everyone believes that, obviously, but there were people that did. So when I started looking into that, I started realizing that it's not just a Shia view. It was a Sunni view also, but then I was still making excuses and going, you know, the people that did fight Imam Ali alayhi salam, the people that did go against him just made mistakes. And then obviously in the Quran, Surah 33 verse 33 says that Allah purifies the Ahlul Bayt. Now, a logical argument in my head was, why would I follow people that are imperfect and can sin versus people that won't sin or can't sin? After about 7 to 8 months, when I was speaking to that to Sayyid Raza Rizvi, I wasn't admitting it that it was actually making a difference. I kept still trying to make excuses. I said to him I'd never become Shia in my entire life. And then about 1-2 more months down the line, I think about it every night. How can I follow these people after I know what they've done? So, and what the Quran says, that Allah chooses leaders on this earth. It's not by a shura. It's not by, councils and things like this, So all these things added together made me think I can't be on the truth. And it was just something that was never shown to us. I woke up one day and I called him and I said that I can't do this anymore. I've been thinking about it for too long, and I can't stay a Sunni because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to be a Sunni and not follow the Ahlul Bayt. And then there is some people that do claim they do follow, but then I don't believe you can follow the Ahlul Bayt and the people that went against them, together side by side. Okay, so for example, the first caliph and the second caliph, well, the first caliph stole the Prophet's daughter's land, Fadak. Now, Sunnis would think that this is impossible, because he's the greatest person after the Prophet and the best friend of the Prophet. This would never happen. Now, loads of them don't know that this happened, and some do know it happened, but they make excuses, just like I was making excuses and saying that, it's a mistake or he did right. Now, if you just have to add all the hadith together, Sunni hadith proves it, so it can't be brainwashing because it's from their own books. Their own books literally state that whoever hurts Fatima Zahra, Salamullah alayha, hurts me. That's what the Prophet said. Now, this is from their own hadith. And from their own hadith, it also says that Fatima Zahra died angry with their first caliph and the second caliph. So if you add these principles together, you can clearly come to a final decision, who you should be following and in what regard you should be following them. And like I said, that Surah 33 verse 33 is clear enough, So we should be following the Prophet's family and their righteous supporters instead of the people that went against them at least once in their life. When I was going through this and I hated Shias a lot, I was telling my mum that Shias are Kafirs myself. I was doing all this. I was being the person, because I was brainwashed. That's when I was brainwashed. I got so extreme to a point where anytime I spoke to a Shia online, I would just mock them and insult them. And I'd make live streams on YouTube talking about Shias not being Muslim. And I went really, really extreme in it, and I'd just really hate on them. And so I didn't really tell them. I was telling them about my family the opposite. My mum says, Ya Ali Madad. I said to her that was shirk. So I did all these things, and I was trying to bring them away from being closer to it. And then in the end, when I did tell them, my dad was fine with it, because he's on the side where I have Shia family in Pakistan, the 1%. And my mum, she was all right with it in the end, but at the start, they had a few questions. They wanted me to go to speak to different teachers and not really religious leaders because everyone was busy, but I did speak to my uncles that are supposed to be learned in the Sunni Shia polemics. Yeah, and then in the end, no one could refute the stuff I was bringing, so it just made my faith stronger. I've got a few cousins that say I'm not Muslim anymore, but other than that, it's been perfect. My mum, my dad, my brothers, everyone's fine. I've been speaking to my mum and my brothers about it, and they're just people that say if you pray 5 times a day, you read the Quran, you believe Allah is one, the Prophet is the last Prophet, then you're fine. So we still do have these debates about the Prophet's wives and how things had happened in the history. And when it does get to that, things do get a bit heated and stuff because they're elders and they don't really they weren't told these things, so they think it's just out of a random Shia book. So we can get to some conclusions, like we've had some progress, some people that did fight Imam Ali. Me and my family have come to the conclusion that they're not Muslim, and these were people that they respected before. Okay, so as a Sunni, all we saw it as was people, the cursed people are beating themselves and they're not Muslim, and that's all we saw it as. We didn't see it as mourning for the Prophet's family or nothing like that. We just saw it as extreme behavior and fake Muslims. Then as a Shia, I went to Marble Arch, and then I did go down to Tooting. And it was when I saw it from this point of view, it was different. because then I knew why everyone was mourning. And I also did go down to Birmingham, and it was like I felt a lot different, you know, because I knew who they were mourning for, why they were mourning, and it just felt a lot different than when I saw it as a Sunni. There was this thing that we used to debate when I was researching about Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificing himself and the 72 martyrs with him. And the Sunni argument would be, why would Imam Hussein go to Kufa and get himself killed? You know, they don't understand that it was a sacrifice and that it was going to, like, you know, people did betray him. And then they, like, you know, they say that because of this, he doesn't have, like, knowledge of the future. Okay, and what I realized was, going there, he didn't have to try and save the people that were calling him there, but he did that anyway. Now, if you look at other people that ruled in them times, they would do the opposite. They would let them die, or they would be the ones killing them themselves. So Imam Hussein's character is something that needs to be spread around the world, and Imam Ali alayhi salam's character also, and Imam Hassan alayhi salam's character. All of their characters displayed, you know, goodness, forgiveness, mercy, and kindness. And I think if we took from their character, we'd be better people. There's a team on YouTube called Bayt al-Ghadir. I go with them to every majlis that I go to, every mosque that I go to as well. My first Shia mosque that I went to in Birmingham, I went there with them, and that's how I do it. And I don't really have any challenges in my home. We just pray at different times, really, and that's about it. And we pray differently. And then obviously, you know, you get the few eyebrows, and they ask why you're praying like that. But then after you've explained everything, then I think it's fine. And yeah, I haven't really faced any different, like, you know, challenges inside my home. To be honest, we're living in a Western world. Now, if you go around telling people you want to take over the world and you want to take over the country and you want Sharia law here and it has to be here, then obviously you're going to make Muslims look bad. And that's exactly what's been happening over the years. Every single non-Muslim will think we're all the same. And, you know, even more terrorist attacks would increase and are increasing, actually. One Muslim goes and, you know, says, main terrorists in England, okay, there's like two types. There's one that radicalizes, and then there's the radicalized. There's one that actually kills people, and then there's the one that is telling everyone to go and do it and travel to Syria and fight. It's not a good image for Islam, obviously. You know, people are being bombed, people are being killed, and we're all being blamed for it, and our Prophet gets mocked in the end of it, and Allah gets mocked, and our Quran gets burned by non-Muslims because of it. So if we fix our behavior, then, you know, that will reflect very well, and then non-Muslims would be able to, you know, learn more about our deen, and, you know, we could all live side by side. That's what I think we should do, instead of, you know, people going on the offensive and just trying to force their religion on everyone. Okay, so what I've learned is there won't be unity, but there can be coexistence. I don't want to give my beliefs, I don't want to forget my beliefs to be brothers with someone else. I'd rather we both live side by side, believe in different things. I don't need to antagonize you, you don't need to antagonize me, and we can both live side by side. I don't want to force my religion upon you, and I don't want you. It only becomes a problem when someone is trying to force their religion upon you. I don't care what someone else believes. We can talk about it and debate it and discuss it. And if someone's ignorant, then they're ignorant. You can't do nothing about it. But I don't want them to force their religion on me and make me believe a certain thing. Otherwise, there'd be violence and, you know, things like this. I don't want that. I'd rather me believe what I want, and us all Shias believe what we want, and Sunnis can believe what they want.